Good morning, everyone, and thank you and welcome for attending our Act 15 Tricks. My name is Stephen Boulden, an Act consultant with 12-3 Marketing, and I want to try to give an overview of a little bit of what we do on this channel. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm working out of the Act demo database, and these are my top 15 Act tricks. So number one is copying an Act record. Did you know that as you're looking at an Act record, you can go under Edit and press Copy here. You might be wondering what exactly that does. That this will copy the information from all sorts of the most common fields that you have within the Act record, so that then you can easily go and paste this into someone else. So if you go and write a new email here and now paste, the Edit Copy has taken all of the most relevant Act contact information and put it into an easy copy-paste format for you. Number 14 is sending a V card. It's very similar to the copy function that I just showed you. A V card is a global format for how contacts are stored throughout many different address book applications, Act included, as well as Outlook, and it's really kind of a global standard. You send a V card, and if I say contact, send V card, then what Act does is bundles up everything from my contact record, all the fields that it has, and puts them into a .vcf, a vcard format file, and automatically adds them to an Act attachment. This is an easy way that you can email a contact to somebody else. They'll be able to open this vcard and they can easily import it into Act or add it to their Outlook contacts from there. Number 13, lookup by right click. So as we look at the different lookup menus in Act, you know that there's the fast lookup options on the side where you can look up different fields. And you can also look up all fields by going through the lookup menu. There's some fast links here, and there's the other fields drop downs. But did you know that you can right click to look up a field easily as well? If you right click on any field on your Act layouts, your detail view layout, and this goes for contacts, companies, groups, and opportunities, the right-click menu will have the name of the field right there for you to do an easy lookup. So if I do right-click on a state, my menu says Look Up State. And sure enough, clicking on it will pre-select that field for me. This is useful because the text label that's to the left of your field sometimes does not always correspond to the actual system name of the field, which can make it tricky when you're looking for them in these other drop-down menus. But if you right-click on the field within your layout, you'll be sure to have the correct field name in this list, and it can get you to where you're looking for and save you just a couple of clicks. Maybe over the course of 1,000 lookups, you'll have saved a minute. Number 12 is the Act Any Phone field or any email field. So in the same theme of lookups, if I go to look up other fields, and you scroll up to the A's here, you'll see a collection of fields with the any prefix. We have any address, any city, any phone, any state, any email. These are really useful because they kind of pre-build all of the different phone fields at once or all of the email fields at once. So rather than looking up, you might have a field on here for phone and mobile and alternate phone and office phone and home phone. If you do any phone field, then it will search all X number of these at once. So if you get a phone call from a number and you're not sure who it was and you want to just look up an Act, who might that have been? You can just search the any phone field and say starts with, I don't know, any type of value. You can type in the contact's phone number there and you'll get a list of results that match any one of the phone fields at once, so that you're not looking at just one particular line. You're searching mobile and office and everything else. Also useful as the any email field in case you have an email 1, email 2, and email 3, and you want to maybe look up a specific contact that you received an email address from. Number 11, look up contact activity for contacts that you haven't reached in a while. We have this under lookup and contact activity. There's a menu under here. Look up contact activity, and what this will do is look up based on different filters that you set for contacts that have not changed or changed since a certain date. So if I say for contacts that have not had any notes or history since a specific date, such as maybe this time last year, and I'll just go back to April of this year. I want to find any contacts that have no notes or histories, and I'll keep those options checked. You can also do for any other field updates or opportunities made or activities scheduled. Maybe you want to check all of these boxes to find something that's totally different or customize it to your needs. You'll find contacts that have not had any notes or history scheduled with them in that time. Demo database. Number 10, grant calendar access for other employees. So we know that when we're looking at the calendar, you can select users to see other users' calendar in the database. And when you're scheduling an appointment with an ACT, there is a schedule for option where you can put an activity on somebody else's calendar. Now, if you're an admin of the database or a manager, you will be able to schedule something onto everybody else's calendar automatically. But if you are just a standard user of the database, then you will only be able to schedule things onto your own calendar. If you want your employees to be able to schedule something on your calendar on your behalf, then you need to grant them calendar access by going to Schedule, Grant Calendar Access, and it will show all of the users of the database, and you can go ahead and select them, and on an individual basis, allow each one of them to just view your calendar or to view and schedule on your calendar, and give each one of these the permissions they need. Those are browse users. They actually can't schedule things in your calendar. But so the admins and managers of your organization, even though you can schedule onto their calendars, if you want your employees to be able to put things onto your calendar for you, such as a call that you received when you were out of the office, then you need to go into the Grant Calendar Access in order to give it to them. Number 9, salting the database with fake contacts. This is a little tip that I came across a while back when people try to ask about preventing employees from walking away with the company database when they leave. At the end of the day, you can't really prevent that. We can make it difficult, but as I say, thieves are gonna steal. You can take away somebody's permission to export to Excel within the Manage Users function. That can make it a little bit harder. But ultimately, people have different ways of stealing your database. And so we sometimes encourage owners and managers to salt the database with some intentionally bogus contacts that will still go to them. You can maybe make a new fake contact record and fill out the contact name as something totally bogus. My dog's name is Sydney, so put in Sydney Bow Wow there. Maybe you want to make it something a bit more plausible than that. And then maybe make the email address something that's actually an alternate email of yours or an alias that still goes to you, or contact information or a phone number that goes to you. At the end of the day, you can't stop anybody from ever stealing your database. You can only make it difficult. I mean, they could still be taking photographs of their computer screen or something. But if someday you receive an email or a letter or a phone call addressed to your dog with information that you put in the database yourself, and it's coming from a former employee of yours, well, maybe that gives you something to consider. Number 8, customize your views, and with the Sync Now button. This one is especially handy for anybody that's a remote database user that has to synchronize their database frequently, or anybody who wants to add any custom function to ACT. You can right-click on some of the open blank spaces of your ACT toolbars and say Customize. And when you say Customize, the Customize Menus and Toolbars window appears. Under the Commands section is every item in the ACT database. These are all of the different functions from every menu that you'll see along the top. Every single function in the ACT database is within here. I particularly like to go to Tools, and there is a Synchronize Now button. Again, this is only applicable to those of you on remote databases, but if you grab this item, I usually drag it right to the top. You have to get the placement kind of precise. You want to look for this little black vertical cursor line to appear, and I normally drop it right up there on top of the database. It can make it very handy for those of you that are frequently going into the tools menu and saying synchronize now if you're on a laptop or a remote database. Similar to that, you can take any other command that you use often. Perhaps you synchronize with Outlook, synchronize your contact or calendar with Outlook. Both of those functions are within here as well. If those are something that you manually initiate frequently, you can consider dragging those options to the top. You can put any custom functions that you use up here as often as you'd like. I also recommend putting them either on this very top bar so that they're available on every screen. If you put them on just this detail view bar, then they'll only be available on the contact detail view, for example. And I really don't recommend putting them on this middle bar with these icons. There's a tendency that if you drag a menu option to these ones up here, there's sometimes a glitch that will cause these buttons to display kind of wacky. So I really advise not putting anything on this middle toolbar there, although you can. Whew, going on, we're about halfway done. Number 7, expanding your calendar view lengths. This is often a function that I set up for some people that they appreciate it if your computer screen has the real estate to spare, which usually they do. If you look at your calendar, your daily view, it's highlighted between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and we have 30-minute intervals between each of these calendar windows. But we also have a whole lot of wasted space that we're generally not scheduling too many things between the early morning hours or these late evening hours. Some of you certainly are, but I often will customize this calendar view to use my screen space a bit more efficiently by going to Tools and Preferences. Under Calendar and Activities and Calendar Preferences, it will ask, when does your workday start, which just controls when this highlighting is shown, but it also shows calendar increments, and the default is 30 minutes. I sometimes drop this down to 15 minutes on each of these, daily and work week. And when you do that, now my hour intervals are shown in 15-minute chunks. It can make it a bit more useful if you have many small tasks on your calendar throughout the day that may only be a few minutes each. They won't be so crowded and stacked on top of each other. You can fit 4 things per hour as shown on a single line item. And if you're the kind of person that likes to schedule things by the drag and drop and select, that might give you a little bit more fine-tuned control. You could even go further with it if you wanted under the calendar preferences to make your calendar increments be 5 or 10 minutes, although that might be a bit much in my taste. You decide. Other preferences that you might want to explore brings us on to number 6, colors and fonts. This is one that I'm often asked about for those of you that might have a hard time seeing the fonts within ACT on your computer screen, especially if you have maybe some sensitive eyes. The default font sizes for a lot of the items in ACT is a size 8 font. If I go and check out a contact, for example, the text that we see on this screen, it could be a little bit small to read, depending on your eyesight. So if you go under your preferences, under your colors and fonts, you can customize the font sizes for every one of these individual items. You can actually get very fine-tuned with it. You can customize which font style, the color, maybe you want to make it bold, or the size. You don't have to go and edit each one of these individually, though, by selecting a contact list and making the font larger. You can use the Shift Select shortcut. That's where you select the top item in a list. If I hold down the Shift key and select the bottom, now I can edit all of these at the same time. And I can set my font, instead of size 8, let's make it size 11, and press OK. Boom, we've got some bigger fonts here. Might make it a bit easier on some of you to see. I like it. Moving on to tip number 5, duplicating a contact. So sometimes, let's say that you're going to a meeting with somebody, or you attend a conference or a call, and you meet another employee from the same company. You've already got one employee in your database. Let's say I've already been meeting with Buck, but I meet his coworker, Debbie. And rather than filling out the information for the contact all over again by saying new contact, I'm going to get a totally blank record, and I might have to put in a whole lot of extra contact information there. What you can do instead is go to contacts and say duplicate contact. And if I do duplicate data from all fields, this will give me a pure duplicate down to the exact same name and phone number and contact information. And that's not normally what you want. There is a handy option for duplicate only the data from primary fields, where instead of getting everything brought over, it's just the fields that are most likely to be the same between two employees at the same company. So if I met somebody else from Making Technology Co., I can just look up one contact from there and enter in their information, and then duplicate data from primary fields. And now I've got a new blank record where all I really need to do is fill out the contact name, the second contact there. I can fill in their own custom information for extension, mobile, and email, but all of the other information like the address, city, state, zip, and website, that all came over automatically for me to save me a little bit of entry if I'm stringing together many contacts from the same company. Number 4, another preference setting, preventing history recording from one user of the database to another. Under Tools and Preferences, this one is configurable by admins only. It's here under the Admin tab. We have Allow history creation for emails sent from a user of this database to another user. What this does is many people really rely heavily on the ACT and Outlook email history recording so that emails you send out of Outlook will automatically be captured within ACT. But usually, most people do not want internal company emails between two employees to be captured in the database because that could leak some sensitive information there. So this is a preference that I usually turn off on most installations that I do, where we disable internal emails from being recorded. If you are somebody that relies on your Outlook history recording and you have multiple employees in your database emailing each other, I recommend that you probably keep this option off so that internal emails are not captured. Number 3, keeping your database clean with the ACT history list. I've done more detailed sessions on the history list in the past. Please see my other videos on that for more detail. The history list is a viewing of all histories that have happened in the database based on different filters and criteria that you choose. These can be things like activity histories, like notes and calls and emails, but it also includes things like system changes, which in my mind are just about pure junk. If you look at system changes, these are things like field changed, when you change certain fields that you want updates about, access, contact linked, contact created, and contact deleted. These line items can take up clutter, and they will also fill up the space of your history in the database as you're looking in your history lists and reports. I say you periodically go through and delete them. Go to your history list, look at the type of system changes only. You can look at them across all users, and then you simply delete all of these, right-click, select all of these, right-click, and delete. Do that every once in a while. You might find that you have 100,000 system change histories in there. It can really help speed up your database just a little bit further and keep things clean. In the same vein, along those lines, for number 2, my number 2 trick is to use the ACT scheduler to run your database maintenance. So as you add and delete records and move things around, your database tables do get fragmented in the background. So there is a function under your Tools menu for doing a check and repair. It's under Database Maintenance and Check and Repair. This is an administrative function that should be ran every once in a while. I say about weekly is good. Your benefits are only marginal as far as how often you do it. But if you do a check and repair, then this will do an integrity check to check your database for errors and a reindex to try to remove any blank lines out of the back-end tables that might have been created by deleting all of those system change fields out of the history. And it will help keep your database fast. I recommend that you run the check and repair as often as you feel like it to try to keep your database size compressed and lowered. But you can also run automatically on the server the check and repair every week by using the ACT scheduler, which is the actual point of this tip number 2. That's here under the Tools and ACT scheduler. This is something that should be done on the server itself. I recommend that you seek out the ACT knowledge base article on using the ACT scheduler, or ask me for advice if you'd like to set this up yourself. But you can create a task to automatically run database maintenance, check and repair on a certain time interval. You can also use this ACT scheduler to have automated backups of your database happen as well every single night. This is a very important tip. Every single ACT user in the whole planet should be using the ACT scheduler to have automated database backups and automatic maintenance. This tip would be my number one and the most important thing any ACT user could do if it weren't for my actual number one tip, which is attend my weekly ACT training seminars. I'm sure a lot of you didn't see that one coming from a mile away, but yes, a shameless self-plug there. You can always grow stronger every week by joining us every Tuesday morning at 9:30 a.m. for my live go-to meeting, where I will drill down at a much slower and much more reasonable pace each one of these ACT tips and tricks in detail, as well as any others that the crowd suggests. You can sign up for free using the link in the description. You'll join on the mailing list and be subscribed to the invites, and I hope to see you all soon. Thank you, and have a great day.